लेकिन चलिए अब शुरुआत करते हैं फटाफट शेयर्स की और इनफैक्ट फटाफट शेयर्स के दोनों जानकार हमारे साथ मौजूद भी हैं, आशीष चंदानी है, चोपड़ा है, लेकिन ज्ञान संगम की आज से शुरुआत होनी है और अब इसी इवेंट को रुक कर लेते हैं। वित्त राज्य मंत्री जयंत सिन्हा कुछ बोल रहे हैं।
Honorable Finance Minister was there and all of us from the Ministry of Finance were there in a series of very important and influential discussions that we had with our colleagues from the public sector banks. As a result of Gyan Sangam, we began a transformation process and ushered in a series of reforms and changes to the public sector banks that were the most sweeping set of reforms since these banks were nationalized in 1969. The first phase of that set of changes was Indradhanush, which we announced in August 2015. And what we accomplished by then, between January of 2015 and August of 2015, was to complete the first phase of this transformation agenda, which was to change the governance and management of the public sector banks. And we did that through a variety of ways. First of all, there was a very important executive order that went out from the Honorable Prime Minister saying that there will be no more interference in the operations of the public sector banks, that they have to focus on what makes commercial sense and operate free of any interference from the political class. And this is vitally important because unless our banks operate on a commercial basis, it becomes very difficult for them to compete and thrive in a much more competitive banking landscape. And so the first phase that ended with Indradhanush was to put in place governance and management reforms, obviously autonomy in terms of their own commercial interests. Number two, to separate the role of the chairman and the MD as per global best practices. Number three, to set up a meritocratic and transparent process for the selection of independent directors, chairman and MDs of the banks. And number four, which we had announced in the budget but then we started to work on, was the establishment of the Bank Board Bureau to assist in the governance and management of the public sector banks. So that was the first phase of the transformation agenda. The second phase of the transformation agenda was the asset quality review that was undertaken by the Reserve Bank of India. Obviously, this was done in very close collaboration with us in the Ministry of Finance. We worked very, very closely with the Reserve Bank of India as the asset quality review was undertaken. And what the asset quality review enabled us to do was to get a system-wide view of the set of stressed assets that were there in the economy, both public sector banks and private sector banks, and understand also that we needed a certain capital that was required for the public sector banks and the private sector banks to ensure that they remained well north of all the requirements that RBI has and Basel III has for capitalization. So this was the analysis that we were doing with the Reserve Bank of India as the asset quality review went through between August and January of 2015-16. That was the second phase of the transformation agenda. And obviously, we have now a very good sense of what the set of stressed assets are. As we have said before, we believe that the stressed assets is about 8 lakh crores of the total advances that public and private sector banks have. As the reported numbers are, we have about 11% or so, 11.25% if the numbers are accurate from my memory, of stressed assets in the system right now. The good news in all of this is twofold. One, that the set of stressed assets has stabilized. We know where they are and we know how to deal with them. And number two, we have now a clear sense of what it means for bank balance sheets. And we obviously in the budget 2016 have provided 25,000 crores and we will provide more as necessary to ensure that our banks are well capitalized. In addition, RBI of course has also made certain changes to the manner in which capital can be recognized as part of CET1, that's Tier 1 capital, and that has added further strength to bank balance sheets. So as far as the set of stressed assets is concerned, as far as the NPA situation is concerned, that we think we now have a very good control over, and of course working very closely with the RBI, we'll continue to work with those numbers to see how we can further expedite and strengthen the recovery process for these stressed assets. So that is the second phase that has now been completed. Gyan Sangam 2 now really begins the third phase of the transformation agenda. And in the third phase, there are a number of topics that we'll be discussing, as Ms. Duggal has pointed out. And we will be working, with the RBI, of course, in all of this, with experts that we have brought in from the outside as well. And it will be done in a very collegial and in an environment where we'll be able to exchange ideas and really begin to think through the agenda for this year and what this third phase of transformation will look like. Thank you.
तो विचाराते मंत्री को आप सुन रहे थे, ज्ञान संगम की आज से शुरुआत हो गई है और कई सारे मुद्दे होंगे जिस पर चर्चा होगी। एनपीए तक इशू रहेगा ही, साथ कस्टमर सेटिस्फेक्शन को कैसे एनहांस किया जाए, क्वार्टरली परफॉर्मेंस को रिव्यू किया जाएगा, अगले एक साल को लेकर क्या प्लानिंग है बैंक्स की, और साथ ही साथ पीएसयू बैंकों के मर्जर और एक्विजिशन को लेकर भी कोई रोड मैप तैयार हो सकता है। तो नजर रहेगी इस 2 दिन के इवेंट पर जिसकी शुरुआत आज से हुई है।